In this video, I will show you how to dual boot Arch Linux with Windows 11. This is a newly updated guide and one of the safest methods for setting up a dual boot on any computer without risk of data loss. Also, at the end of this video, I will show how to remove Arch Linux safely from the dual boot. Be sure to watch the video until the end to avoid any confusion. Unlike other Linux distros, installing Arch Linux is not as straightforward and caution is necessary to avoid data loss. However, I will guide you through the entire process explaining each step in detail. Make sure to watch the video without skipping any parts. Now check the description below for valuable information, timestamps, and download links. The only requirements of this video, you need Windows 11 installed on your PC or laptop, an 8 GB or higher USB drive to create a bootable disk with Arch Linux, at least 40 GB of free space reserved from your existing drive. Now let's proceed with creating free space for Arch Linux. Open the search bar and type diskmgmt to access the disk manager, which shows all of the connected drives along with their partitions. In my case, you can see that one drive is connected. If you notice, drive 0 has 3 partitions. The first one is the UEFI partition, where the Windows bootloader is present. The second one is the main Windows, and the last one is the recovery partition. I'm going to choose the C drive to shrink the free space for Arch Linux. In your case, it might be D, E, or F, whatever. Just choose the partition and right-click on it. Now choose Shrink Volume and allocate a minimum of 40 GB or more for Arch Linux. You can type the value in megabytes. In my case, I'm going to allocate 200,000 megabytes. Then click on Shrink. This will create an unallocated free space. That's it, we have done creating a free space for Arch Linux. Now open your favorite browser and go to the official website of Arch Linux. Now scroll down and choose the closest mirror to your location, then download the Arch ISO. Once it's done, connect your USB stick to your computer. You can use Rufus to burn the downloaded ISO to the USB drive. Now once you're done making a bootable USB with Rufus or pasting the ISO to Ventoy drive, it's recommended to create a system restore point before installing Arch Linux. This option allows you to take a snapshot of the current state of the Windows system. If something goes wrong with the Arch installation, you can use this backup to restore your system to normal. Now once it's done, reboot your computer. Whilst rebooting, enter the BIOS settings using the keyboard shortcut based on your motherboard. Now mostly it could be F2, F9 or Escape key. In the UEFI BIOS, enable USB boot and change the boot order by setting the USB drive as primary boot device. Now disable Secure Boot, which is very important for Arch Linux to boot. Also, if there's an option like Microsoft's third-party UEFI, enable it. It's also better to clear any keys or certificates after disabling the Secure Boot. Save the changes. Your system will boot into Arch Linux from the USB drive. If it fails to boot, use the boot menu to load Arch install media. Now on your monitor, you will see a terminal expecting input. Now please note that the mouse functionality is disabled, so you need to rely on the keyboard. Type this command exactly as you say to increase the size of the console. Then press enter to execute the command. Before installing Arch Linux, if your computer is connected to the internet via Ethernet, use the ping command to check the connection. If using built-in Wi-Fi support, use the iWCTL tool to connect to the internet. To use iWCTL, simply type iWCTL to enter the IWD shell mode. Then type device list to see a list of network interfaces. Look for WLAN 0 and then type station WLAN 0 get networks to see the list of Wi-Fi networks. Next, run the command station WLAN 0 connect and enter the name of your Wi-Fi network. Then press the return key and input the Wi-Fi password. After entering the password, wait for 5 seconds and press enter to connect to the internet. You might not see any output, but if the connection was successful, you can exit the IWD mode. That's it, you have successfully connected to the internet. Now run the ping command to ensure you're receiving the packets. Now to demonstrate this video easily, I have remotely logged into Arch Linux via SSH. Now type this command to synchronize the package databases. Then install the Arch Linux keyring package by executing this command. Now type lsblk to list out all drives connected to the PC. In this case, you can see the two main drives. Forget about the loops, just concentrate on the SDA or NVMe. The NVMe 0 and 1 is the main drive where Windows 11 has been installed on my system, and the SDA is the bootable USB. It's time to create partitions for Arch Linux using the free space we created earlier. Type cfdisk /dev NVMe 0 and 1 and replace this part with your disk identifier and press enter. Here you can see the UEFI and Windows partitions. Keep in mind that you need to use the arrow keys for selection and the enter key for confirmation. Now scroll to the free space. For Arch Linux, we need to create 3 main partitions: UEFI, root, and swap. Then select the free space. I'm going to create the first partition with a size of 800 megabytes for the UEFI partition and press enter key to create it. Select the type and choose UEFI System. Then select the free space again and create a root partition of 20 GB or higher. In my case, I'm going to type 180 G and press the enter key to create it. The type is going to be a Linux file system and the CF disk will pick it automatically. Now lastly, use the remaining free space for swap, which can be used as virtual RAM. The type for this partition is Linux swap. That's it, we have done in creating the partitions for Arch Linux. Write the changes to alter the disk. Once it's done, exit from the CF disk. If you type lsblk, you can see all the newly created partitions: the NVMe 0 and 1 P5 for UEFI, P6 for root, and P7 for swap. We need to format these partitions one by one. First, format the Arch UEFI partition, which in my case is NVMe 0 and 1 P5, by typing this command. Then format the root partition, which in my case is NVMe 0 and 1 P6, by typing this command. Lastly, I'm going to format the NVMe 0 and 1 P7 by typing this command. Now let's go ahead and mount the partitions. First, I'm gonna mount the root partition, which in my case is NVMe 0 and 1 P6 to the MNT. Then create a directory inside the MNT and name it as boot. Now mount the UEFI partition to this directory. Enable the swap partition by typing this command. Once it's done, make sure all the partitions are mounted properly. You can verify it by typing lsblk. Now it's time to install the Arch Linux to the root partition, which is mounted to MNT. To do so, type packstrap-i/MNT, base for the base Arch system, base-devel, Linux for the kernel. Then I need Linux firmware and AMD-U code for AMD processors. And if you're an Intel user, type Intel-U code. And also I'm gonna install a bunch of packages like sudo, nano, git, vim, neofetch, network manager, Bluetooth support, and more. Once it's done, run this command to start installing the base system of Arch Linux. Accept the defaults. This will take some time. Sit back, relax, and don't interrupt the computer. That's it. Now we have done with the base installation of Arch Linux. It's time to generate a file system table. If you notice, the NVMe partitions are mounted to the live session of USB, but when we boot Arch from the main drive, we need to tell the system to mount all these partitions to the same location. For that, type this command to generate the FSTAB file. Here you can see all the partitions and their mounting points are written correctly. So far, we're running everything from the live session. It's time to enter into the drive where we have installed Arch Linux. For that, type arch-chroot/mnt. Now you can see the prompt has changed to something else, which means we have entered into the actual drive as a root user. Now first type passwd and set the root password. This is a super user account and is known as a top tier user in Linux. Also, we're going to create a standard user by typing this command. And replacing this part with your name. Then set the password by typing passwd and the name of the user. Now we have added this new user to the wheel group and other groups. The wheel group allows the user to access root privileges with a sudo command. For that, we need to edit the sudoers file. Now by default, you can type vsudo to edit the sudoers file with vim, but I'm going to edit with nano by typing this command. Now inside the nano text editor, scroll all the way and uncomment this line. Once it's done, press Ctrl+O to write the changes and press Ctrl+X to exit from the text editor. Now to check whether the new account has root privileges, type su-username and press enter. You can see the prompt has changed. Now run this command and type the user password. And voila, the new user has gained full root access. And I'm going to type exit and continue as a root user. It's time to set the time zone, our region, and link this information with local time. For that, type this command and press the tab key to see the list. In my case, I belong to Asia and Kolkata. Now type this command to sync the current time. Now it's time to set a system language by generating a locale. Type this command. Scroll all the way and uncomment this line. This is going to tell the system to use American English as a system locale. Now type this command and generate a locale. Now create a locale configuration file by typing this command and add this line to use English as the default system language. Save the changes by pressing Ctrl+O and Ctrl+X to exit. Now type this command to set up the hostname of this computer. In this case, I'm going to say Arch Linux and save the changes. Then type nano, etc, host, and add these lines. Make sure you replace this part with your hostname and save the changes. And lastly, it's time to install the Grub bootloader, which is going to help to boot Arch Linux. Now type this command to install these packages. Then type lsblk. We're going to install Grub into this EFI partition named boot. Type the command exactly as it is. Now generate a Grub configuration file by typing this command to update the Grub configuration file. That's it, the Grub bootloader has been installed. And lastly, enable the Bluetooth service by typing this command. Then enable the Network Manager service, which lets you use the internet connection. Type the command exactly what you see over here. Now exit from the CHROOT environment and type this command to unmount all the partitions. Once it's done, shut down the system by typing this command and eject the pen drive. That's it, now we have successfully installed Arch Linux and dual booted with Windows 11. Now go ahead and turn on your computer back again. You can see the Grub menu. From here, you can boot into only Arch for now, and Windows 11 is not showing. We're gonna fix that issue in a moment. For now, let's boot into Arch Linux. Now log in with your user account. To connect to the Wi-Fi network using NMCLI, first check the status of all your network interfaces by typing NMCLI space dev status. Next, run this command to turn on Wi-Fi radio. To view the list of available Wi-Fi networks, run this command. Lastly, connect to Wi-Fi using this command. Replace the placeholders with your network information and enclose the password in double quotes. Then update the pacman database by typing sudo pacman-sy. It's time to install the desktop environment. I'm gonna install a Plasma desktop by KDE. To do so, type sudo pacman-s exorg sddm, which is a simple display manager, and Plasma meta package. If you prefer to use the Wayland session, you can install this package. I don't recommend Wayland to be used on old computers. It's also recommended to install KDE applications, but for now, I choose to go with minimal setup and install some other necessary packages to get started. It's also recommended to install these fonts. Now this is gonna install the desktop environment on top of the Arch Linux based system. Wait for some time. Once the installation has been completed, I'll be right back with you. Now enable the display manager using a systemctl command. Type this command to start the GUI environment. That's it. Now reboot the computer to reload all the services, and this time Arch Linux will boot with a Plasma desktop. You can choose X11 or Wayland session from the login manager. That's it. Now we have successfully installed the GUI environment. The first thing to do after installing Arch Linux is to fix the Discover App Backend. To do so, open console and type this command to install Flatpak and use it as a backend for Discover App Store. If you have a modern NVIDIA graphic card, it's recommended to install NVIDIA proprietary drivers. This is completely optional. Installing this package on older systems may or may not work, so please refer to the article in the description down below. Anyway, inside the console, you can type this command to set up NVIDIA drivers. Once it's done, reboot your computer. If I type this command inside the terminal, you can see it shows the NVIDIA driver information. It's time to add the Windows boot entry to the Grub boot menu. To do so, inside the terminal, type this command to install OS Prober. Then edit the Grub configuration file with this command and change the default Grub time limit to 20 seconds. Then scroll to the bottom and uncomment this line. If you don't set the OS Prober value to false, then Grub cannot look for the Windows bootloader and won't add it to the Grub menu. Once it's done, save the changes by pressing Ctrl+O and exit with Ctrl+X. Now run the command to update Grub and you can see it found the Windows Boot Manager. Then reboot your system. Now you can use the Grub menu to boot into Arch or Windows 11. As a bonus part of the video, if in case you don't like Arch Linux and decided to uninstall, then reboot your computer into Windows 11. Once you are inside Windows 11, open the search bar and type diskmgmt and open Disk Management Utility. Here in my case, next to the C drive, 3 new partitions are showing. We need to delete each partition one after the other. Now, as you can see, I have deleted swap and root partition, and there is no option to delete the boot UEFI partition. Well, it's expected, and we're going to take a command prompt help to remove this partition. To do so, go ahead, open a command prompt and run as administrator. Inside the command prompt, type diskpart, then type list space disk. This will show all the drives connected to my PC. Now, as you can see, drive 0 is the only drive connected to my computer where Windows are present. I'm going to go ahead and select this drive by typing select space disk space 0. Now I'm going to type list partition to view all partitions of this drive. If you notice carefully, partition 5 is the Arch UEFI partition, which we failed to delete from the disk manager, which is this one. And as you can see, it's around 800 megabytes. We're going to go ahead and delete this partition. To do so, type this command to select this partition. Make sure you have selected the proper partition. Then type this command to delete it. Now, as you can see, under the disk manager, it's now deleted and we gain back the free space. You can use this and merge it back with Windows 11. That's it, we have successfully removed Arch Linux. Now restart your computer. It should boot your system directly into Windows 11 and you won't face any issues. This is how you properly set up a dual boot on your Windows 11 computer with Arch Linux in 2024. If you have any questions or queries, comment down below and I will try answering your questions. I will also leave a link to the detailed article about it, so please check the description down below. Thanks for watching. This has been KSKRL. I will see you in the next one.